Okie dokie, cracky smoky. In this video, I'm going to be replying to some of your comments. So if you want to have a conversation with me over video conference, whether it be to argue with me, debate me, or to just talk shop, if you want to talk programming and stuff like that, I'm willing to do that. Programming, artificial intelligence, and ancient tech and more. This is where I had a video conference call with a friend named Peter. All right, so we scroll down to the comments, and the first one says, and I'm reading this one just to let you know that most of the comments that I get are very positive and loving, encouraging, and motivational to me. The first comment says, I never got to know my way around programming until I met Adam on YouTube. If I'm 100% honest with you, Adam, my library is full of your videos because I learn more listening to you than copying your codes. So what he's talking about is watching and listening to the video is where he gains most of the fundamental understanding about what's being discussed and presented in the videos, the programming tutorials. He doesn't just go and copy and paste the code without watching the video. And my email address is listed in the About section of my channel. So if you go to my channel, the About section, you can get my social email from that section. If you ever want to contact me to have a video conference call, you can contact me through that email address. This next one is one of you guys being very helpful and sectioning out the video according to what's being discussed at what points in time in the video. And thank you for doing that. That's very nice of you. Great discussion. Is there a part 2? Mr. Motophoto, thank you for your kind words and your interaction. And Matt put in a very interesting comment. He said, some of the answers where knowledge comes from is answered by Newton. And the quote is, if I've seen further than others, it is because I stand on the shoulders of giants, which is a very good point. Okay, here's a fun one. And I was talking about frameworks and a core first programming philosophy. The core language first, frameworks secondary. So that was part of the discussion I had with Peter in the video. So Edwin says, and he's taking my entire philosophy out of context, and he's assuming so many things that, and it's weird how he assumes these things because I've already explained them in previous videos where I've talked about frameworks, the oversaturation of frameworks, and the core first programming philosophy. And also in your thumbnail, it says, it's a pretty cool thumbnail you got. It says eat function, there's a sleep function, code, repeat. So eat, sleep, code, repeat, all written as functions. But what I think you're missing there is you should have a get laid function there somewhere in the mix, and also have fun and relax functions in there. And Edwin, if you'd like to get on a video conference call to hash things out with me, I'm more than willing to do that with you, sir. So his comment says, some people are making 100 to 200,000 or more as software engineers, and their company uses multiple frameworks. Should they tell their company, I quit? I don't want to make, let me read more here. Should they tell their company, I quit? I don't want to make 200,000 a year. I refuse to use frameworks. Nobody said that. Nobody suggested that. And if you go back to my previous video where I talk about why frameworks, the snafus and pitfalls of using third-party frameworks 3 years ago, and you'll be able to avoid most of these kinds of pitfalls. Now, if somebody wants to use third-party frameworks and libraries, I'm not mad at them. And I know that they have their reasons for using them. Maybe a specific job or employer requires it, or the project is so complex that grabbing third-party code is the only rational option to get a project completed in a timely manner. Next time you write silly comments taking everything out of its proper context because you feel shame about your weak programming skills and lack of ability, I will expose you again as someone that is either not paying attention at all or just a dirty, stinking liar. And there are many of you. I might even start going back into previous videos, especially the socio-political, history, and social studies videos, 'Cause that's where the most of you do your lying. Liars. Even in that video, I said, yes, use the frameworks for any clients or company that you work for. And if you know the core of the programming language, you'll be better equipped to use any of the now thousands of frameworks that exist for JavaScript, PHP, CSS, app development for mobile devices, and all these things. There's so many thousands of frameworks that it doesn't make sense to focus on frameworks anymore. It makes sense to focus on the core so you can move fluidly and more rapidly between all of this fragile ecosystem of frameworks that we've set up over the years. So my point is that you completely miss is that if you have a core first programming philosophy, you'll be better equipped to invent where things are not in any frameworks and you might need it, some kind of customization that the framework doesn't offer. You'll be able to do it, bang, just like that, because you have the core. You have a more complete and knowledgeable approach to JavaScript, for instance, or a more complete and knowledgeable approach to PHP or Java or whatever language we're talking about. You're saying things that don't actually line up with what Peter and I were discussing. And also, I'd like to say something else about all this. Why do you guys who use frameworks think you're faster than I am in developing things? I mean, it's possible everybody's got different speeds and quality levels that they develop at, but have you raced me in developing anything? Have we had a race and you won? Yeah, if you're new and don't know how to code, if you don't know the core language at all, of course, a framework where you don't have to code much is going to help you along, go faster. But my point is, if you're in the industry for more than a couple of years, you should be studying the core language and try to get proficient in that before you try to get proficient in all these other things, these many thousands of different frameworks. Because when I get clients, they'll say, oh, I'm using this framework in my system. And I'll say, okay, no problem. It doesn't hurt me at all to use a framework for a client. So the more you know about the core, the more valuable you are, the faster you can develop things, and you could be more fluid and rapid in your development speeds throughout all these thousands of different frameworks. And you're not locked into one thing. Argue with me online in a video conference, or just get over it. You know, if you want to entertain people, let's have a debate on this topic. Let's hash it out. And so then he goes on to say, I used to be anti-framework and be obsessed with PHP when I first found your channel. All right, let me reiterate again. My focus is not PHP. I focus on all of these core development languages for the industries that I work in, for the sectors that I work in. Unfortunately, Edwin, I'm going to have to expose your limitless ignorance once again in front of everyone. It seems that there is no boundary to your nonsensical finger movements under my video. I'm going to straighten out the facts for you again, my dim-witted adversary. Okay, it's obvious that a few of you need a reality check about the nature of my material and my channel and which technologies my channel is focused around. Because many of you think that I'm the PHP guy, when in fact, I'm more of an ECMA script guy. I have way more JavaScript tutorials than I do for PHP on my channel. And I began with ActionScript, which is an ECMA script based language. And you can prove that to yourself by going to Videos tab on my channel. Click the oldest. And then you'll see it's ActionScript 3. AS3 right there. ActionScript 3. And this is my first ever video that I put up on YouTube. ActionScript 3. An ActionScript is an ECMA script-based language that was used a long time ago, and I think some people still use it today because there's still people commenting on my ActionScript 3 tutorials, and they'll ask questions. They'll say thanks for this. To this very day, there are people using ActionScript. So ActionScript is an ECMA script-based language, just like JavaScript is an ECMA script-based language. So the vast, and I mean vast majority of the tutorials on my channel are for ECMA script-based languages. So people who say that I'm obsessed with PHP or just the PHP guy on YouTube, they're just dead wrong and misinformed. Maybe they came across some of my PHP tutorials, so they just say that that's all I do and that's all I'm obsessed with and focused on. When in my tool belt, there are many different tools and technologies. And when I work for clients, there's an assortment of technologies that I implement. And now if you go to playlists, so you can see how many tons of ActionScript tutorials that I have. And then when you go to playlists, we can see, let's see, and where is it? JavaScript tutorial videos, there's 119. And in my HTML and CSS tutorial playlist for beginners, there's a whole bunch of JavaScript involved in those tutorials as well, because I tie JavaScript to HTML and CSS in many of those tutorials. So that's 119 plus 60. Not all of these have JavaScript in them, but a lot of them do. So let's just say 120 plus 60, that's 180. Now let's find the PHP and MySQL. Okay, here's PHP and MySQL tutorials. 46, and that's it. Then I also have some other playlists that involve PHP and MySQL, but that is not even nearly the full focus of my channel. So if one wanted to summarize my channel to say, or to explain which technologies that I have instructed the most, and you wanted to pick one, it's ECMA script, which is the backbone of both JavaScript and ActionScript. And the reason why JavaScript many years ago came so quickly and naturally to me, and I was already good at it, was because I spent many years working with ActionScript. So if you work with ActionScript or JavaScript, you can bounce between both of those languages very easily because they have the same syntax, similar code base. It's just the extensions off of ECMA script are different from the enhancements, and the additions are different in ActionScript than they are in JavaScript because they're made for different environments. So you guys got to get it right and stop saying misinformed things in the comments. Stop trying to mislead people when you're putting in comments because you got your feelings hurt about one thing or another that I am saying in a video. Because this is what happens. People will get their feelings hurt when I say something that's true because it exposes their low skill level or their inability. And then they get upset and they'll write in nonsense comments. So I just want everybody to realize what's really going on my channel and the technology focus. And all of this stuff is relatively simple. I focus on all of these core development languages for the industries that I work in, for the sectors that I work in. I focus more on JavaScript, brother. All you have to do is look at my video tutorial history and you'll see that I have many more JavaScript tutorials than I do for PHP. And I started with ECMA script, ActionScript. So I don't understand what you guys are talking about. PHP is simply one of the tools in my tool belt that holds many tools. So eventually landed my first job, recently landed my second job. That's great that you're making money doing what you like to do. Eat, sleep, code, and repeat. I think it's great you're making money do that, but at least get your facts straight. Get your facts straight and be honest, because you're basically lying and taking everything out of its true context to make some silly point that you're trying to make. You can go back, I don't know how many years ago it was I made that video about snafus and pitfalls. And I said in the video, if you're going to use these frameworks, nobody's going to get angry at you. Nobody's going to yell at you. But just try not to get too dependent on one thing, one framework. And I explained how these frameworks come and go. They have a shorter lifetime than the core. The JavaScript core has a much longer lifetime, and it's not going to just be phased out as quickly as all of these third-party frameworks are. These frameworks, they gain popularity and then they lose popularity. And there was a whole bunch of snafus and pitfall proof that I showed in that video, where one guy in Timbuktu, one developer in Timbuktu, who's part of the ecosystem of the framework in the stack, he can change 3 lines of code and make millions of projects not work anymore, just by him going in and changing 3 lines of code within the structure. So there's provable pitfalls that you won't suffer. And the things that you're saying that I'm reinventing the wheel for, it's kid stuff. It's stuff that doesn't take long to program at all. And then you then have a module or a class file that's always in your arsenal. And you don't even have to reinvent the wheel. You can go to any of these frameworks you like. For instance, jQuery. If there's something you use in jQuery a lot, you can go into jQuery's source code, pull that fragment out of it, and use it independently and make it your own as a separate module that you can plug into your projects when needed. A reusable module that is independent of the framework that you got it from. So I think you guys misunderstand completely. And even I myself am able to work in all of these frameworks very easily because I'm very fluent in the core of the language that all these frameworks are built upon the backs of. And then he closes off with saying, not everyone can be a successful freelancer and choose their technology stack. As an employee, it's up to the company. Okay, so let's address that now. What happens is these companies are made by people who don't know how to code real well. They don't have a lot of experience, so they'll start off with using all these frameworks that makes a patchwork system. It's like a Frankenstein project that they develop. Then when they go and get a little bit of maybe funding, or the project gets a little bit popular, they'll go and hire out a senior developer and a development team, and they ask that development team, here, this is what it's all built with. And that's how all of these frameworks get popular. It's the blind leading the blind. So the blind start their project, and the blind continue the project that way because they never take the training wheels off. They never drop the crutch and try to walk on their own. And that's fine too. I'm not going to get mad at that, but it is what it is. I'm going to call it out for what it is. And if you get all bent out of shape, I don't know. And I put a couple of paragraphs in here so people can't misinterpret me anymore or misunderstand. And I'm going to go way more in depth on this topic of core first programming philosophy. So it says web application developer resources. A core first programming philosophy revolves around gaining a deep and complete understanding of core technologies such as JavaScript, PHP, SQL, and more. Possessing greater experience and skill working with the core languages enables a developer to work more quickly and fluidly in the now oversaturated framework arena as well as many instances where raw invention is required. So there's so many instances where people who are inexperienced or they don't study the core language well enough, they can't invent as well or as fast. They can't make new things that don't exist yet as well or as fast as somebody that has a more deep and a more complete understanding of the core technologies. And actually, I have, since the socio-political pendulum is swinging, I can feel the socio-political pendulum swinging back from the insanity levels that we've been at. It's kind of starting to swing back a little bit, and I think that momentum is going to build faster. So I'm going to get back into tutorials again and refocus the content of my channel. And it's not going to get me any more popular. My channel is still going to be losing steam, but I just want, for my own hobby, I'm going to start doing tutorials again. And one of the things I'm going to show is, check this out. If you go to color adjust, I'm allowing people, they can change the whole color, saturation, and brightness so they can theme the site, the entire layout of the website, to any color they like. So somebody may like red, they can have a dark red, something like that, saturate it, and the entire layout, all of the major sections of the site, and even the color of the buttons will take on that. So if we go to the, see the buttons are kind of have a reddish tint. The search bar has a reddish tint. If we go back to reset, you can see the search bar is gray again. And this is, I'm going to do a tutorial on this because what we see now is there's, for theming a website, most websites will have where you can go from light theme or dark theme. And when you press light or dark, it changes the style sheets for the entire site. So that way you can have a light theme or a dark theme. And with this, it gives you a little bit, it's like taking that to the next level, to where you can, if I take the brightness all the way down, it'll be black. But if I take the saturation all the way down, so you can go from light to dark. And if you really wanted to put more work into it, you could even change all of your text when it gets much lighter to a black text pretty easily. But I wanted to keep mine as a dark theme, but allow people to make that dark theme as bright or as dark as they want it. And then further than that, bring the saturation up, they can color it any color they want. Maybe they like orange, green, a blue, whatever they want. Or they can just go with the default theme. So I'm going to be showing how to make that in a upcoming tutorial that I'm going to do very soon. And it's very easy. And it's something that you don't see yet anywhere, or it's not very popular online yet on any websites or any applications. And once I put the tutorial out showing how easy it is that you can do this without frameworks or anything like that, then it will get popular. Then people will start taking it and putting it in their frameworks. The frameworks developers will start putting this into their frameworks. And then people who want this sort of thing, they'll go and grab that framework and say, oh, look how powerful this framework makes me. No, it's not the framework making you powerful. It's the framework developers grabbing something that already exists and integrating it into their framework. And then you think that the framework is all kind of awesome when it really started somewhere else at a very simple level. Wait till you see how few lines of code it takes to do what I'm about to show you how to do in an upcoming tutorial about all this. This whole color adjust theming for applications. It's such a small amount of code, and it's such a cool, powerful thing to offer your visitors and users. And no framework required. And that's why I wrote, as well as the many instances where raw invention is required. And the person can finely tune whatever color they want and save the color. So when they come back the next time, their color choice is already there and loaded. Okay, back to the comments under my last video. We have Green Dragon says, 20 minutes in, you guys haven't said anything. Yeah, Peter and I, for the first 20 minutes of that video, we sat there and said nothing. And I had one hand had my finger in my nose for 20 minutes, and then my other hand, I had my finger in my butt. And that's what the first 20 minutes were so the audience can view my expression with my finger in my nose and another finger in my butt. So it's very keen of you to observe that the first 20 minutes we didn't say anything is because I had one finger in my nose and one finger in my butt. Then he says, these are interesting topics. You can tease out the important points of interest, then dive a little deeper on each. Alright, so Green Dragon, I invite you to video conference with me and make it more interesting then. Peter and I were just shooting the breeze right off the cuff. We didn't plan much of it out. We just wrote a little bit of a bullet point list, described the topics we were going to discuss, but we didn't go any further than that. So it was a very organic, natural, real conversation. And if you want to spend 3 days, 4 days, a week or two structuring out a whole thing, that's something you can do. I'm not going to waste my time doing that crap. All right, so this one, this was a fun one. Sierra Gray, which is I believe it's a female user. Let me sum up some of the things. She says, let me sum some things up for those who might be new here. Adam is anti-framework, anti-Apple, and anti-libraries. All right, so first of all, Sierra, I'm not anti-framework. I'm just pro-core. I have a core-first programming philosophy, and that's what you guys don't get. Many of you are just too dense to be taught that it is beneficial to a developer to have a core-first programming philosophy. Now, with the frameworks, I come across as anti-framework because a lot of these things that you guys are using frameworks for kid stuff that is already easy in the core language. And if you're a senior developer at a company, you need to tell the company owner, why are we using third-party frameworks and a fragile ecosystem that can collapse on us, or that we can't have ownership over the code of? Why are we using that framework for stuff that's kiddie stuff? For buttons and forms and requests to the server. It's kiddie stuff. So, anti-framework is not very genuine. You should say Adam is core first, framework second. That would be more accurate. You have it wrong also, just like the other guy. Anti-Apple. Yes, I am anti-Apple. Because Apple is effeminate. Apple is a very effeminate company, has a very effeminate philosophy. Now, the reason why she says I'm anti-Apple is, here, she'll explain it, and I'll talk about it. And anti-libraries. So you said anti-framework and anti-libraries, not anti-library. For instance, PHP, without using any frameworks, has a bunch of libraries in it. For instance, the curl library. There's photo processing and image processing libraries. Yes, you can say anti-framework. That's fair. But I'm not really anti-framework in the way that you're saying it. I'm just a core first philosophy type of person. Framework second. So if you can't ride the bike, by all means put on framework training wheels until you can ride the bike. Or just stay with your training wheels on forever. I don't care. I'm not going to yell at you. So it's being a little disingenuous what you're doing here, lady. And so then, however, Adam is pro hand coding from scratch. It's because I have an extensive knowledge of the core, so I could just sit there. For instance, what I was showing you on my site with changing the theme and the color, it was that was all done without me having to go look somewhere else to do it. But that doesn't mean that's a bad thing. If you see that as a bad thing, you're really mixed up, lady. Even when there is already a framework or library made by much more experienced devs than himself at the ready. So this is what you guys don't understand. These libraries that you're adopting and putting in your systems, how do you know the experience level of the person who developed it and maintains it, or the group of people who maintain it? How do you know their experience level? You don't. There was a guy who got all pissed off at me on YouTube because he tried to promote his framework under my videos, and he even said in a comment, he said, so much of my framework was built using a lot of your codes, Adam, and I just wanted to thank you for that. Now this is a new, green, not seasoned, not experienced developer kind of guy who made his own framework, and now there's hundreds or thousands, I don't know how many people now are using his framework, and he is a new developer to the industry. You guys, Siri Gray, whatever your name is, you have no idea what you're talking about. Then she says, Pro Flash, which has been dead for years because of Apple, which is 99.9% is why he hates Apple. Okay, so Pro Flash. Any of you that know my channel and my material, you know that I quit doing Flash tutorials. How many years ago? You can just go through my tutorials upload date listing. Go find when my last Flash tutorial was. And that was about the time where I put Flash down and stopped instructing. And that's what I got popular for on YouTube initially, was being an ActionScript 3 developer and teacher. This is 99.9% the reason why he hates Apple. Nope. Apple, it was Apple, Google, Mozilla, Microsoft, a whole handful of companies is what killed Flash. Not just Apple. Okay? So that's another thing you're lying about and you're misinformed about. So why would I be pro Mozilla or pro Google and just anti-Apple if my reasoning is because Apple killed Flash? They all had a hand in killing Flash. And the reason why it had to be destroyed by Google, Mozilla, Microsoft, Apple, and another handful of companies, the reason why they went about destroying it is because Adobe never worked with them like it should have initially to get Flash from being proprietary code to being something that's more open source, that isn't owned by Adobe. And that was the whole problem, is that programming paradigm, even though it smokes everything we have even today, by far, it was proprietary to Adobe. And Adobe, they didn't react fast enough to opening it up. And that's why Flash was killed. So get your facts straight before you come at people. Apple, I don't like Apple because Apple's just gay. So everything about Apple is gay. And maybe because you're a female, you get angry if somebody calls Apple gay. Because I think in one of my videos in the past, maybe in several in the past, I said Apple was gay and things like that. And there's nothing wrong with being gay, but gay is gay. And she says Adam is pro deleting comments that hurts his feelings. I left your stupid comment. It doesn't hurt my feelings. Maybe that's why you didn't do well enough. You didn't say anything that was really true that would hurt. If you want to hurt my feelings, you got to say something that's true. and then I'll be hurt. Or if you really want me to delete your comment, which I'm not going to delete your comment because I think it's funny, and I replied to you, so I'm not going to delete it. So that's another thing you're lying about. You can hurt my feelings all you want, guys, but one thing that I won't tolerate are if you say something that is a lie that could hurt millions of people. If it's a lie just about me, I'll probably keep it there. Basically, I think you're a woman scorned, and it's possible I may have been in your mouth. Or let me put this another way. You guys who get so bent out of shape about when I recommend and advise for you all to have a core first programming philosophy, framework secondary. When I say something like that, which is really the truth behind what I mean about all that, when I say something like that and you get yourself all bent out of shape and upset, what you're doing is you're exposing to me and to the rest of the world that you're against that philosophy of core first programming knowledge. So you're telling everyone that you have no idea what the core of the language can do, whether you need a framework or not to do what you're trying to do. You're admitting and showing your newness, what's the word? Noobs? You're showing how much of a noob you are by disagreeing with the core first programming philosophy. That's how I see it. If you want to argue with me in a more engaging way if you really want to pound me into the dirt, get on a video conference call with me. Pound me into the dirt. I invite it. Hurt me by saying true things. But if you say something that's a lie that I can easily show that's a lie by my video history and things like that, or I can just play part of the video that I've made before and it shows that you're lying about nearly everything you're saying here. If you want to call me anti-framework, that's not so much a lie as all the other things you're saying. But I'm not anti-framework, and that's what you guys don't get. I'm just core first. So if being core first, having a core first programming philosophy makes you think that I'm all anti-framework, you go ahead and believe that, you morons. I can't stop you from assuming all kind of things that are not true. You're going to assume all kind of things that are not true when you get your feelings hurt about being a not so able and not so experienced developer. That's really what's going on. You're not as able. You're not as fast. You can't develop as rapidly as we can. You're much less knowledgeable about the languages that all these frameworks are built upon. And there's so many thousands of these frameworks now that what are you going to do to be useful in the industry? You're going to go around and learn thousands of different frameworks instead of just learning the core like you should have in the beginning? If that's the road you want to take, I can't stop you, and I'm not going to yell at you, but I will advise against it because it's stupid. There's a whole lot more that I want to address in past videos, and maybe comments that will come up under this video here. When I put this video up that I'm creating right now, there'll be more comments that are people bent out of shape and misinterpreting things, lying. And so I'm going to address those as well. So keep it coming, guys. I love it. And I wish some of you would actually get the guts and the courage, build up the courage to face me in video conference call. If you think you're so smart and you can pound me into the dirt, take my logic and rip it apart and make me look stupid to my audience, I invite you. Please do. I'll make time for you. Stop being a wuss. Let's do this.